back. This is the structured essay discussion of speed revision day 3, and we have successfully completed the first 4 units and the unit number 10 of our syllabus, and I will be discussing the 5th unit model papers during the coming few weeks. So 5th unit, animal form and function, has 12 subtopics, and I will be discussing 3 subtopics in each day. For example, in model paper 5, I will be discussing all the high yielding sections of animal tissues, gaseous exchange in animals, which is the respiratory system, and support and movement, which is the skeletal system. So I'm pretty sure you will find those discussions very helpful. So if you're interested, please join the WhatsApp group to get more details. So today I will be doing the structured essay discussion for speed revision day 3, unit number 3. The MCQ discussion of this model paper is also on YouTube, so you can watch that also for free. So when we take the structured essay paper, there are 4 compulsory questions, which means that you have to answer all of them. So each structured essay question has about mainly 3 parts as A, B, C. So that's the general structure, and each of those subtopics carry another subpart, so it subdivides further. So if we take the mark allocation per one question, 100 marks are allocated per one structured essay question. So this 100 marks will be coming from 40 points. What I mean by points mean that question points or keywords or examples, whatever that is, the answer mean a point. So there will be 40 question points in each structured essay question, and that 40 points will be converted to 100 marks at the end. And if I elaborate this further, if we take question number 1, so it will be having like A, B, C parts. So subpart A will carry about 14 question points. Subpart B will have 14 again, and C will have 12. Altogether it will be 40. So in that way they divide those points. This might change, like it is not always 14, 14 and 12. It might go differently depending on the questions and the professor and all that stuff. So I'm giving a general idea. So it will have 40 points. So these 40 points will be divided. If you take a question like mention 2 examples, so there are 2 points for that question, and sometimes they ask for definition. So a single definition might contain about 3 question points. So those are keywords in that particular definition. So in that way, those question points will be divided. So you will get a better understanding about this when I discuss the paper. So we'll jump into the discussion. Question number 1, what is natural classification? So here they're asking for a definition. So when you answer a question writing a definition, there are specific words that you have to mention. If you don't mention those words, you won't get the marks allocated for that particular point. So in this definition, grouping organisms based on true relationships representing evolutionary characteristics, that 2 words are necessary. So true relationship and evolutionary characters will be given points in this particular definition. So for that one for true relationship and 1 for evolutionary characters. So subpart, like Roman number 1 of question number 1A, will have 2 points. The next question, how does natural classification differ from artificial classification? So they're asking for a comparison. So if they haven't drawn a chart for you to elaborate that properly, you should not be writing or drawing charts. You just have to do it, like write it in Word format, because that's safe. So natural classification emphasizes evolutionary relationship while artificial classification ignores them. So that's point number 1. And the next one, Artificial classification is based only on a few pre-selected unifying characteristics, while natural classification is based on many characters. So those are the main two differences between natural classification and artificial classification. So that is pretty important because this was not asked very recently. This was not there. So this is a very important key point in that initial part of evolution of organisms, theory part. So for that one, if you have mentioned both of them, you will get 2 points, one per each, one per one difference. So the next one is pretty easy. Who classified organisms scientifically at first? So it is Aristotle. So there are a few names in that particular paragraph, like Theophrastus, Ernest Haeckel, Carolus Linnaeus. So you have to be very, you have to write down the person related to a particular difference or whatever they did, their discoveries, inventions, and the namings and all that. So it would be better if you take a separate note regarding that particular section, because we have a lot of people, a lot of names, scientists or botanists or some people, names of people are there. So you have to be careful when you write about their particular discoveries. So it would be better if you make a little note about what they did and when did they do that, or what were the what were the observations that they took from the environment in order to come up with that particular conclusion. Those are some important areas that you have to understand when you study those particular sections. Okay, so that's why I added this question, because it's important to know who did what. Next one, and that particular part. So Roman number 3, part A, will get single point if you have mentioned Aristotle. The next one, according to him, what were the major groups of organisms? So here they are asking about the perspective of Aristotle. So you have to, even though there are changes about this theory, like it changed during the evolution and all that, depending on the discoveries that were done afterwards, you have to agree with Aristotle and write what he did, not the most recent discovery. So according to him, at that particular time, so there were only 2 major groups as plants and animals. Okay, so for that question, part B, you will get 1. So here, there are 2 things, plants and animals. So if you have written only one, you won't get any points. You have to write both in order to get 1 single point. So I added this question to stress upon that point also. Sometimes, even though we think that we will get the points if we just write 1 and we will get half of a point, it won't. Sometimes they're not very generous about giving marks, so you will lose points. So if you have written both plants and animals, you will get 1 point. If not, it will be 0. So Roman number 4, Theophrastus classified plants according to their lifespan. Give 3 examples for them. So it is annuals, biennials, and perennials. So there are some more details about this classification. You better study that part also. The next question, and for that subpart, you will get 3 points because there are 3 particular examples related to that. So those are the 3 key points, and those are the points that will be distributed. Okay, so part 5. A, who classified organisms according to the hierarchical system? It is Carolus Linnaeus, who made actually history. If we come to scientific nomenclature, which is so important in this field, so he was the one who established that particular nomenclature, which we still use. So he's someone very important in this particular subject area. So Carolus Linnaeus, you will get 1 point if you have mentioned that. Part B. What are the hierarchical levels or taxa introduced by the above scientist? So here there are 4: species, genus, order, and class. So if I mention 4 of them, you will get 4 points. So if you count all the number of points that I've allocated for subpart capital A, it will be 14. So We'll move on to the next question. B. Give a reason for not considering kingdom protista as a natural taxon. This is a very popular question, and this was repeated multiple times during the past few years, so it might come again. There are some interesting parts in our syllabus that repeats over again. Like sometimes they ask the same question in the structured essay, or they convert it to an MCQ or a statement in the MCQ paper. In some way, that particular theory part comes up. So the theory about protista is also a recurring theory if you have done the previous past papers. So here, kingdom protista is not considered as a natural taxon is because it is a polyphyletic group, meaning originates from more than one ancestor. So you have to mention either polyphyletic or originate from more than one ancestor, or both, either way. So you will get 1 point if I mention that. The next one, give 2 unique features of phylum Platyhelminthes. So unique features is something very, very important throughout this whole lesson, because those unique features are the ones that you can use in order to scan particular answers in the MCQ and filter them and eliminate those answers and go to the correct answer. So studying unique features or scanning for them while you are studying the theory without passively reading a particular passage or whatever. So try and understand unique features are very, very important. So sometimes you can directly go to an answer if you know something very specific. You know only these type of organisms will have this kind of feature. So if you take only chordates have a vertebral column. So invertebrates don't have a vertebral column. So that's a major difference. That is a very unique feature. And some features like that are very important for the students as well as to the professors who are making the question paper, because in that way they can very specifically ask a question and you won't have multiple answers for that question. So it's easier for them to make the marking scheme also, because that particular question has only one answer. So be very aware of those things when you study, okay? So this question, they're asking for unique features of Platyhelminthes. So I've written 2. If these are the major things that you have to remember. So they are dorsoventrally flattened Platyhelminthes. So the trivial name is flatworms. So that it's because they are dorsoventrally flattened. Okay, and the next thing is flame bulbs, which is very unique. We never talk about flame bulbs in any other particular phyla. So this is very unique to these phylum Platyhelminthes. So if you've written 2 of them, you will get 2 points. The next chart, below names a few organisms. Select the organism with the given feature and write the relevant letter in the space given below. So, and write the relevant letter. So for your convenience, I've mentioned the particular scientific name also in front of them. When you're writing the answer, you only have to write the simple letter in front of the name. Okay, so photosynthetic marine multicellular thallus. There's no, anyways, it doesn't make any sense. Multicellular thallus, I think it should come together. I've added a comma in between. Either way, anyway, it's okay. So the next one, dominant gametophyte, homosporous, zygosporangium, budding, diploblastic. So how would you get through this question? How would you approach this kind of a question? Because you are bombarded with a lot of information and you have different types of examples given. So this question solely depends on filtering with unique features. So there is photosynthetic, unicellular, heterotrophic, and they've given a reproductive method of reproduction, budding, and zygosporangium. So we see zygosporangium in the kingdom fungi and phylum Zygomycota. So diploblastic, the only known diploblastic organism in our syllabus would be cnidarians. So those are the important characteristics that you have to know before you go to the exam. So let's start from somewhere. I would say just read out the names given there. It's paramecium. So what do you know about paramecium? You might not come up with any information if you have not studied kingdom Protista. So it is a type of example for a Protista. Gelidium, again a Protista. Sargassum, again a Protista. Pogonatum, it's a non-vascular plant or a mosses. Bryophytes, Nephrolepis, Pterophyta, Nitum, Nitophyta. Mucor is a part of Zygomycota. Saccharomyces, again a fungi. Both Mucor and Saccharomyces are fungi. Hydra is a cnidarian. Chitin, mollusks. So there's a variety of organisms here. So let's dive into the question. So the best thing would be start from something that you know for sure. So diploblastic thing is only present in cnidarian. So the only given cnidarian in this particular example set is a hydra. So you can start there. And when you write one particular example to a particular space, make sure to cut it down. Like just remove that from your answer list. If not, you will be repeating that particular answer in another example. So you remove that and then you go for the next one. Dominant gametophyte, that is present only in Pogonatum from the given examples. So which means only non-vascular plants have a dominant gametophyte. So that's out. The next one. Xylem vessels present. Xylem vessels present and gymnosperms. So the only gymnosperm with xylem vessels is Nitum. It is also highlighted in the resource book. So those three things that we discussed up to now are the very important highlighted unique features. So now we are done with 3 and we can do the rest with the given in the same way using the hints that they have given. So muscular foot, external shell and radula present. So radula is present among mollusks. Muscular foot is very unique to them. So if we take snail for the very popular example, and the only mollusk given in the set is chitin, so you can remove that. And then you can start with what? Zygosporangium, I guess, because Zygomycota is something that relates with the same name. So Zygosporangium, Zygomycota, that is Mucor. And the next thing is budding. We did it. Now we are left with photosynthetic marine multicellular thallus. Nephrolepis, homosporous, compound leaves, photosynthetic. So I don't have a particular way of answering the rest of it, but I think you get the method of answering that. So you can use that method to at least do the thing that you know for sure. Sometimes they try and do negative marking in these type of questions. So which means that if you for a wrong answer you will lose marks, and for the correct one you'll get marks, so they will cancel off and sometimes maybe a 0. So it would be better to write the most assured answers in these type of questions, but that negative marking thing is not very popular, but sometimes they do that. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So the whole question of that part, you will receive 9 points if I mentioned all of them. So we are moving on to part C of the first question. State the eon in which the following events took place during evolution. So these events or the eras and eons is not my favorite, I would say, because you put a lot of effort to study those stuff, but you won't gain a very efficient output even though you put a lot of effort to memorize those stuff. Altogether your efficiency is very low for that one. So you will put an effort of 1,000, you will get about 2 marks from the whole thing. So that isn't worth it sometimes. So if you're running out of time and you're stressed about the exam and all that, stop studying these type of things. Start and focus on studying something which is more important than this. You will only lose like maximum 2 points, 2 marks from this one, while you can use that time more efficiently to study something like a major part of animal form and function, or unit number 2, revise unit number 2. So those are very important units. So origin of mammals happened in Phanerozoic eon. Flowering plants, Phanerozoic again. Alga and soft-bodied animals, Proterozoic and Hadean. So these are pretty easy questions. I just wanted to revise this thing with you. The next one. So the mark allocation, part C, Roman number 1, you will get 4 points because you have written 4 answers. Roman number 2, what is meant by morphological species concept? So these three, there are a few concepts. So we go for a general concept for a species and a morphological species concept, and what else? So biological definition of a species. Species is a group of organisms who share similar characteristics and has the ability to interact and produce viable and fertile offsprings. So that is the major definition, biological definition, and we have morphological species concept, which is the question here, and ecological concept and phylogenetic species concept. So in these definitions, the most popular one previously was the first one, and it is repeated again in unit number 8, environmental biology. Not this deep, but this viable and fertile offspring thing is so important, because sometimes species are able to interact, but they are not able to produce viable and fertile offsprings. For example, like meal and organisms like that are not fertile at the end, so offsprings are not fertile. So those examples are highlighted in unit number 8 in environmental biology for here. In this case, you have to be very careful about the keywords, and for the definition asked here, morphological species concept, use morphological criteria to distinguish species such as body shape and structural features. Morphology is basically the structure. So if you have written that thing, so the keywords would be morphological criteria and body shape and structural features. You will get 2 points if you have written the definition correctly. The next one, name 2 heterotrophic protists that possess both foot vacuoles and contractile vacuoles. So these type of questions, this model is very common when it comes to the 3rd unit. Previously they asked about arthropods and annelids, if I remember correctly. So there are some similarities between phyla and differences. Sometimes they ask for a common feature. So you have to be very careful when you study them. Either draw a chart, or you can just actively remember that, highlight that when you're studying this particular thing and this one all together had this common feature. Make sure to highlight that point while you study, not just read the same thing multiple times. In that way, passive reading won't help in studying biology, because you won't retain information. So if you want to retain information, you at least have to write something after reading the thing, or highlighting. And highlighting is also not very actively done, because you only can do it once. So you can only highlight once. You can't highlight the same thing multiple times. But writing, answering questions, so my Q&A setups that I've uploaded for free in the YouTube channel might help you a lot, because each and every question point in a particular lesson is converted to a question, and you won't miss anything. You can answer the same thing multiple times because you have only a question set in your hand, and you won't have any help when you're doing that. So in that way, you have to genuinely do it. And that way, I think most of the students say that it was effective. For me, it was effective back then. So I think it will help you guys also. So try and do that. The next, the question, So heterotrophic protist. So here the importance of this model is they are giving you a filter. So these are not just protists, they have to be heterotrophic protist. Heterotrophic word is a major keyword here. So heterotrophic has to be protist and should possess both food vacuole and contractile vacuole. So that thing is very important. So the answer would be paramecium and amoeba. So in this kingdom Protista, there are a few different modes of nutrition, heterotrophic, autotrophic, and altogether mixotrophic. So you have to be careful about the names and the examples. So the best way to study something related to a particular phyla would be first remembering the examples and trying to attach those features and uniqueness of that particular phylum to that particular example. I'm saying particular multiple times, sorry about that. So for that question you will get, if you have written 2 examples, you will get 4 points. So one will, for paramecium you will get 2 points, for amoeba you will get 2 points. So the next one, it is believed that kingdom Plantae was evolved from a group of chlorophytes. However, chlorophyte algae lack key traits of land plants and animals, give the key trait present in land plants. So this thing is directly present in the resource book in the beginning. So these features, what they say here is that even though they believe that plants evolved from these chlorophytes, they did not have the features that are present in the land animals that were evolved from them. So it is quite weird, but anyways, that's what they say. So if you don't remember this part, you won't be able to answer this one. So this was asked in a school paper, that's why I remember this so well. So this one was given as an MCQ. I converted it to a structured essay question and added it here because in an MCQ you will either remember only 1 or 2 points because they can't go and ask for few answers in the same question. So here in the structured essay you have to write all 4 of them. So volt spores present in sporangia, multicellular gametangia, dependent embryo, apical meristem. Those are the features of those like land plants that are present nowadays, but these features were not present in those chlorophyte alga. So that's the meaning. Okay, so you will get 4 points if you have written all 4 of them. So question number 2. So altogether, if you count the points for subpart A, you will have 14, and subpart B you will get 12, and subpart C you will get 14, and altogether you will get 40, and 40 will be multiplied by 2.5 in order to convert to 100. So convert your mark and see how you have scored if you wrote this genuinely without using the help of any book. Question number 2, part A, complete the following dichotomous key. So this dichotomous key is quite popular in school papers, but this was not there in the previous year, but the year before there was a dichotomous key. So this thing is not very interesting as a thing that we used to do in grade 7 and 8. So back then we had to draw a chart and divide them further. So this is a bit confusing if you don't know how to do it properly. So here, what you have to do is try and finally the first major thing here is only one particular answer should be there in a single space. So about radial symmetry you have to have one. So if you have multiple organisms having the same feature, you will be transferring them to another sector where they will be divided into singles. So if you take radial symmetry from the given examples, only C anemone present. And the next important thing about the way that you write the features, so radial symmetry, the opposite would be radial symmetry absent. And sometimes what students do is they write bilateral symmetry. It's true that the opposite of radial symmetry according to biology is radial and bilateral, but here we will be only considering the presence and absence of the same feature. So if radial symmetry, if you take that as a positive one, the absence would be radial symmetry absent. So that is the negative one. It's not a different feature, it would be the presence or absence of the same feature. I'm highlighting it again, I hope you understood. So radial symmetry is the first feature that they're using, And the next opposite of that would be absence of a radial symmetry, not a different feature like bilateral symmetry. I hope you understood that. So radial symmetry, the only example is sea anemone. So because that's only one, you can write it directly in the space, because only sea anemone has this radial symmetry from the given set of organisms. So when it comes to radial symmetry, absent. So all the other animals except of sea anemone do not have radial symmetry. So we have snake, earthworm, frog and butterfly not having radial symmetry. So we transfer them to the second one, so which is possess legs and do not possess legs. So in that way, possess legs. So if we take snake, earthworm, frog and butterfly, from them possess leg category will be frog and butterfly, and they will be transferred to the third one, which is wings present, wings absent, which is the difference between the butterfly and the frog, because both of them have legs. So do not possess legs would be snake and earthworm. They don't have legs, and they will be transferred again to the fourth column, like fourth sub-level, to divide further into singles. So body covered by scales is snake, body is not covered by scales would be earthworm. So I hope you understood this. I will slowly divide it again. So radial symmetry present is sea anemone. Radial symmetry absent is all four of them: snake, earthworm, frog, butterfly. And because all of them are here, you can't write all of them here, only a single organism can be written, and we are sending them further down. So we will be sending them to second one. So in that way, we get another difference: possess legs and do not possess legs. So possess legs one would be frog and butterfly. Again, we have two organisms, but only one organism can be written in the dichotomous key. So there are two organisms, so we are sending them further down. And do not possess legs would be snake and earthworm. Again, two organisms are there, we are sending them down. So in the third one, we are dividing them according to wings present and wings absent. So we only have a butterfly with wings, and frog does not have wings. So we are good in that. The next one, scales are present only in snakes, and scales are not present in earthworms. So I hope you understood this clearly. If you have filled this particular dichotomous key, you will get 1 per each answer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will be given. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Yeah, 9. The next one, mention a structural feature of the following organisms that belong to the same phylum in order to distinguish them separately. So I'm repeating the importance of unifying characteristics again here. So here also they are asking for a feature that you can use to distinguish separately. So in order for something to be distinguished separately, you have to have a unique feature. So here in the question, they are saying structural features. So that word structural is very important. If you write something physiological about them, you won't get marks here. They are asking specifically for structural features. So that's why it is so important to read the question multiple times to understand what they are specifically asking. The structured essay is all about writing specific answers. You can't randomly vent everything that you know about a particular thing. You have to be very specific and very genuine about your answers, because your half answers and random guesses will not help you to get through this structured essay paper, even though you can do tuk 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 in the MCQ and go for a random guess. So either you leave it blank or write something. You can do both. So the next one is, shark. So shark, placoid scales and absence of operculum are the major differences between them. So it is a category. So chondrichthyes and osteichthyes are the ones that are the fish groups present in phylum Chordata, class osteichthyes and chondrichthyes. So shark would go for chondrichthyes, which is cartilage fish. So the difference between the osteicht group and the chondrichthyes group would be having placoid scales and absence of operculum, while the other group has cycloids and ctenoids, and they have an operculum. So a bony flap which is covering the gills. The next one is lizard. So lizard has keratinized scales, which is important and which is a type of a reptile. Ichthyophis is an amphibian. So absence of scales or moist skin glands are unique to them. The next one is a parrot, which is a bird, again keratinized feathers or beak present. So those are some important features of them. And rat, which is a mammal, hairy skin or mammary glands would be very unifying characteristics of them. So if you've written a reasonable answer depending on the resource book, you can understand them. So you're an advanced level student, you're supposed to understand what you can write to a particular question when you have studied. And to get to that point, the best thing is to do past papers with the marking schemes. Then you understand, oh, this is what they're asking for, and I have to present what I know in the way that you have to convince the examiners, like the people who are marking your paper, that you know something genuinely. So that's the purpose. Okay, so if you've written all 5 of them, you will get 1 point for each, and it will be 5 points there. So part B, Roman number 1. Mention the taxon level that has the highest number of common characteristics. This is a very common question and pretty easy. So there are 2 things, highest number of common characteristics coming downwards and going upwards when it is the number of organisms. This is the hierarchy starting from domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I hope class, okay. Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So that is the hierarchy. There's an interesting question about this hierarchy in the 2022 paper, and that was taken from the unit the first unit that we are starting from molecules and all that. So anyways, that's the extra. So part 2, state the animal phylum, which shows the following features. Again, features. So unifying features. The whole unit is about important features, unifying characteristics. Interesting enough that you have enough facts to study, and the best way to study them is to understand why they are important. What made that particular feature that you are stressing upon like a milestone during the evolution? Sometimes having cephalization was considered to be something very important, even though we don't consider that much because we have evolved that far. But if we take the whole journey of evolution, those things were huge steps. So you have to be very vigilant when you study those stuff, because they are very important in a biological perspective, even though we don't care about them now. So the first one is polymorphism. So what we mean by polymorphism would be having 2 or many structural features. So here what they're asking for polymorphism, the only place that we talk about polymorphism would be when we talk about cnidarians, polyp and medusa form. So one thing is stable and sessile, and the other one is moving. So jellyfish and sea anemone. So moving and non-moving, basically polyp and medusa forms. It is phylum Nidaria, and you will get 1 point. Flame cells, this was repeated previously also when this same question was repeated the other way around. So it can swipe, like it could go vice versa. So they can go from phylum asking for a unique feature, or else they can give a unique feature and ask for a phyla. So that's how questions are made. There are only a few different ways the same question can be created. So it is a very framed and a particular, only a very limited set of questions can be asked, even though we are very stressed about the whole syllabus. Even though the syllabus is very long, I agree with you. Even though it's true regarding the whole lot of information that we have to study a lot of information, but the interesting thing about this thing is that only a specific set of questions can be asked. They can't ask everything, so there's no point in asking everything. So 80-20 rule is there all the time in all 3 subjects, not just in biology. You just have to do 10 past papers altogether, and you will see 100 different same question patterns repeating. About 35 to 36 questions asked from that common areas, that 20% of the subject matter that repeats over and over again. So try and do as many past papers as possible. The next one is clitellum. Clitellum comes in phylum Annelida, and there are some other features also, if you remember. So if you have written those answers, you will get 2 points for each one. The next one, again, so mention the relevant name of the organisms in front of the matching characteristic. So characteristic features are so important. I've repeated this multiple times during this discussion. So produce Zygosporangium, it is rhizophis and mucor, phylum Zygomycota, and produce exogenous conidiophores. So this exogenous and endogenous spores and flagellated spores, zoospores. So kingdom fungi has some very interesting features. So it's very important when you study them. Make sure to highlight them or convince your brain that is something important, and you have to memorize it, and you have to keep it stored when you might need it in the future. So produce flagellated zoospores, that is Chytridium mycota, and dominant dikaryotic mycelium. Dikaryotic mycelium is present in agaricus. So study the fungi part, because there were no interesting questions from this section very recently. So kingdom fungi might reappear as a structured essay or even in the dichotomous key. So it's better to study them. This thing is pretty easy. This grade 7 work. So this is divided into eons and eras. So I made this. You can further enhance this particular flowchart by adding the features if you need, because then you have the whole thing in one paper or one page. You have your own note, not just the resource book. So when you make your own note, you can remember that easily, add colors and features and stars and whatever that you need. So you can use that to study or revise that particular theory part. So this whole thing you will get for this one you will get 2 into 4, 8 marks, and for part C you will get 11. So this is Hadean, Archean, Proterozoic, Phanerozoic. So these are very easy. So these features are some important features that you should know. So I have created some important stuff. So here, dominated group. a group of organisms originated and radiated, sometimes this can come up as an MCQ. An extinct group, dominated group, so this can again come as another structured essay. So there are some important things that you can study, not the whole thing, but when you study those eons and eras, there are some important features like about dinosaurs and origin of something and the dominated groups. So those are some specific things that you should know, not the whole thing, but you can at least try and study that part before going to the exam. Okay, so you'll get 11 points for part C, and that way we are concluding the discussion. So I hope you found this helpful. So the whole thing you will get 40 into 2.5 and 100 marks will be given. Okay, I hope you guys found this helpful, and see you soon from the next video. Bye.